up. Whoa, we're gonna rise up. Whoa, we're gonna rise up. Whoa, not gonna give up. Whoa, we're gonna rise up. Rise up, yeah. Oh, we're gonna rise up.
Well, hey guys, welcome to Rise Up, hosted by me, Steve Collum. I'm so glad you're here because today we got an amazing interview with Fiona Forman. She's actually from the little island off the big island in Australia. So if you think about Australia being an island in the Pacific, there's another little island called Tasmania. And she's from there, and she's based out of there, and she has an amazing story. She's a lot of tragedy and a lot of things have happened in her life, but she didn't give up the dream. And she can show you that through her steps and through her story, you can see and you can be inspired that whatever you're going through, whatever you're going through, or whatever tragedy you're going through, you can rise through it. And there is a good story on the other side, and you can still reach your dreams. She made a few little steps towards her dreams, which I highly recommend, which you'll hear more about in the interview. And don't give up on your dreams, and just push through and go through your situation, go through your tragedies, one step at a time. And what an amazing story. So thank you so much, Fiona, for coming in. And I also before we start, I want to let you guys know that this episode is sponsored by my Patreon account. The beginning of this year, me and my wife gave birth to my son. He was stillborn. And through that, through that tragedy, I really wanted to give him a voice that he could be a part of something. So I thought, I'm going to create a podcast, an inspiring, motivational podcast that'll inspire people and hopefully change people. And so some part of Asher was able to do this. And so so before we dive in, please head over to my Patreon account, which is patreon.com/Steve Collum, and consider being a partner, consider sponsoring one of these shows yourself, and every bit helps. And I couldn't do it without you guys. So let's go ahead and dive into this amazing interview with Fiona. Awesome. Well, I am so excited. Thank you so much, Fiona Forman, for coming in and sharing your story and sharing your inspirational stories here. You've just a little bit of background for everybody who doesn't know who Fiona Forman is. You've built your own studio, and you have an amazing story about that. Now you have a beautiful studio. I'm looking at some great guitars here on the video here, and you've decked it out. You've done everything right in the studio, and now you're running a business. You have this dream. You've built basically a dream business, and I'm just so excited to you're in the music world, which that's my world as well. So thank you so much for coming in here. And how did you get started? How did you get started? Or tell us the story.
It's quite a story. It is quite a story. And as I look back, I'm 50 this year. And I look back and it's just amazing.
You don't look it.
Oh, thanks. And you look back over your life and just you finish. When I finished school, it's like you sort of have no idea where you're going to head, do you? But I have this beautiful studio after quite some years of windy road, shall we say. So I grew up playing music not far from you, Steve, actually. I grew up in Logan.
Yeah.
You were at the Sunshine Coast, weren't you?
Yeah, I was up on the Sunshine Coast. But yeah, Brisbane was an hour. So you're in about an hour and a half, I think, Logan, from where I
yeah. Maroochydore is my favourite place. Mooloolaba. That's where we go for holidays.
That's my stomping ground. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. We go and visit mum and dad in Brisbane most years and go and hang out at Mooloolaba. Trevor and I sneak off for a couple of nights at Mooloolaba.
Wow, absolutely. Now, just for people knowing, did you grow up in Tasmania? We kind of joke that Australia is an island in the Pacific and Tasmania is the island off the island.
It's the down under of down under, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't grow up in Tasmania. I grew up in Brisbane, and moved to Tassie when I finished uni. I did electronic systems engineering at uni, which is like control systems. And I ended up I got a job after I finished uni, moved to Tasmania with my husband, John, and I was working in factories, paper factories, frozen veggie factories, programming the computers that make the machines do what they're supposed to do. Right? That's control systems.
Wow.
But I did music. Like I loved music all my life. So my mum says I was 4 years old, begging her for piano lessons, and I'd be mucking around on the piano and making up stuff. And finally, when I was 7, she found someone who'd take me. And my sister and I did piano for years. And when I was about 12, Mum said, I said, "Oh, Mum, I don't want to do this anymore. I've had enough." She said, "No, you will learn until you're 15." And I always say I'm so grateful for that, because that's what those last couple of years gave me, the competence, the musical competence, to go and pretty much teach myself everything else that I've done. So I learnt violin as well. You've learnt violin, didn't you, Steve?
Yeah, I did violin a few years, way back.
Yeah, like I did about 3 or 4 years of violin as well. My sister's a strings guru. And but then I went on a camp and learnt bass in a weekend, and that became my go-to instrument. So it sounds so cool and it's groovy and holds everything together, but it was easy.
Easy, that's right.
Lazy musician. No, but I love the groove. I love that. Yeah. So then I sort of played bass for many years as my primary instrument, taught myself guitar and that.
That your mom made you, and she kind of like said, "No, I know you just probably want to play all day, and but no, you're going to do your practices, and you're going to get better at this till 15." I like that. That's the same story for me, and that's really cool.
Yeah, really. Yeah, it's such a gift. I think that little. I mean, she went out of her way. It was painful, as I know now, with kids of my own, driving them to piano every week and violin and whatever, and it was hard yards for them, but gosh, I appreciate it, because it set me up musically for life.
Yeah.
So I always encourage parents to get your kids into piano. I think the piano is a really good start, because you've got the whole gamut of music: the bass, the treble, the chords, the harmony, melody, the whole bit. Anyway, so it was just in me. Music's always been in me, but I ended up I did well at school. I got a 990. If you know what that means, Steve. I don't know if you same era. Or did you have TE?
No, 990. It sounds familiar, but no, I don't.
Yeah, you've forgotten one now. Yeah, it was top 1% of the state anyway. So I could have chosen.
Good job.
It just meant that I was a geek, basically. But I could have chosen any, university course. Really, I fell into engineering because I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't want to be a teacher. And what else is there? Good at maths and science, so engineering it is. Anyway, so I sort of fell into my career, but music was really what I wanted to be doing. So I did university in Queensland, and then moved to Tasmania to take up an engineering position with and John and I had been married for a year at that point.
Okay, and so so I guess that was the reason you're in the island, off the island, was because of work. You had an opportunity to. Yeah,
that's right. And it just felt like home. Tassie's a really cool place. It's a bit behind the rest of Australia, they say, but it's just got a relaxed vibe, and felt a lot like Brisbane, only rural.
Right.
Wow, it's beautiful.
So how long? So you've been there for a while now, and was it hard? Like what? How did you stumble upon the? How did you discover that you wanted to be a musician, or a musician that paid, that you're actually getting paid, or even being an engineer and build this studio? What was the triggers, or what was the kind of the catalyst?
Well, when I just took up engineering, my sister did music at uni, and I as a young person, I was of the view, no, I don't want to do music as a career, because I want to enjoy it. I want to make sure it's not a chore for me. So I think that was probably the right call at the time. But as I did engineering, it's like I also did some chaplaincy, and I really enjoyed that connection with people. But in the engineering world, I felt like I'm being paid to program computers and do all the techie brain stuff, which I'm capable of, but there was no real, didn't feel like you can't sort of, it's not like you're shelling peas and you can chat to your co-workers, how's life? You have to, it takes all your energy to focus on what you're doing. And so there wasn't real relationships being built with my co-workers. And I missed that. That's part of me too, I care about people and not just the technical side of things. So let's think. So I played music at church all the time and in a couple of bands and whatnot. And then there was one lady at church, and she had this beautiful voice, and she'd written some songs, and they were great songs. And I just sort of I got a computer under my house and started dabbling in recording because I enjoyed just having a go. I'd been in the studio with my pastor, actually, who has recorded, I think he's up to a couple of 100 albums now. He's crazy.
Wow.
Not of his own, like of everyone, of lots of people, but he's got about 30 of his own. And he sort of had me in the studio occasionally, and it was like, this is fun. And then so I got myself a computer and got myself having a little dabble with Cubase. And this lady had some beautiful songs, and my pastor Peter said, well, why don't you have a go at recording an album for her? I said, oh, okay. And so we, over a period of 2 years, probably recorded all her songs, and I went to Peter's studio to do vocals and saxophone in his nice room and mix down on his nice AMEC analog desk. And it was like, and it was so much fun. And at the end of it, Kathy, my friend, had this album, and she had something out, it was out of her head and into the world. And there were people who would say, I listened to that album on my way to work, and it just inspires me. It helps me to keep with God. It was a Christian album, obviously. And it was like, wow, that's what I want to do when I grow up. It was so fulfilling to help Kathy to get her music out of her head and into the hands of people who could really appreciate it and use it and needed it. And
and that's amazing, because I'm just, as I'm hearing you say that, it's just screaming at me, just like, that your whole goal, like when you first wanted to build this studio, and when you wanted to get into this, it wasn't built off, I want to be a millionaire. It was about helping people, and it was about these relationships. And it's like that. I think that's just, that's a huge key for people to know, that it's all about people. It really is. And, if you lock yourself away, it's just all about people. It's like always about people. And so I really loved how that kind of was a draw card for you, or a catalyst, or a changing thing for you.
Yeah, music is so people, isn't it? It's like you can sit in your room and make it for yourself, and it's cool, but it's just amazing when people come together. Musically things happen, but relationally things happen as well. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
what happened next? I guess I want to hear the story. So you did this album, so you knew, okay, I want to do this. All of a sudden, the bells or the stars or whatever, you're like, I want to pursue this, but I'm kind of tied up with my job. So what kind of transition did you make, or what journey was that?
Well, this is where the journey really begins, because that was 2008. It was January 2008 when we completed the album, Mixed Down, and that time, I just want to say, Steve, I'm so sorry to hear about your beautiful boy, because I feel it. In 2008, John and I had been trying to have kids for 6 years, much like you, and 2008, when the album finished, and I fell pregnant. We'd been through IVF for a few years, and I know it was only a few months actually, and we only had one embryo implanted, and then I fell pregnant naturally in January of 2008. Oh, wow. So at the same time as this, I want to, this music thing, I love it. This is like what I want to do when I grow up. I also had this, whoa, I'm pregnant. So it was like, so Josh was born in 2008, October. So now I have little Bubba, and at the same time as that, so when Josh was born, my back was a bit sore for a few days afterwards. It's just getting used to lifting the baby. and it just got sore, and it was constantly sore, and it was sore, and it just didn't go away. So 6 months into having a sore back, we did some testing and found that I had low bone density and compression fractures in my spine. And so it wasn't necessarily because of the birth or being pregnant, even, because bone density takes years to change. So it's probably something systemic for years had been happening. It just showed up at that point in time. So basically, since then, I've had chronic back pain. But that's a whole journey in itself. So now I've got a little person and chronic back pain and no time because babies take time, and there's still this desire to make music. So I just started putting $50 a week away, thinking one day maybe I'd love to be able to do something more serious with music, and I'm just going to put some money away in case, so that something comes up and I'll have a little bit of a stash. So focused on family and
proactive. You didn't know what to do, but you knew that was one thing you definitely could do. And that's awesome. I think that's a huge thing that people can take away, that it's like that if you want to go there, just take a little step, even if it's a crawling step, even if it's that's what you did. And I already know, I don't know the story that you're about to say, but it's I know that's a big key, right? What you did there.
Yeah, I didn't have a real picture or plan or clue of how it might turn out or when it might turn out. I just thought, this is something I really want to do, and I know it's going to take investment. So what it can do right now is just start a little savings fund. So that's what I did. And then so that was 2008, and then had another miscarriage. But then my daughter was born in 2012. March. So I had Josh and Michaela, Mickey, we call her, and they're both gorgeous and amazing and a lot bigger now. And then so the life was very full, obviously. 2 kids, sore back, not much time for music, $50 a week.
Yeah.
And then when Michaela was 13 months old and Josh was 4, we actually went home to Brisbane to visit mum and dad, and we had a lovely holiday. And I've got so much to talk about around this amazing things that happened, but my husband passed away. We'd had our holiday and we were just going back. John and I had a couple of nights together for the first time since Mickey had been born. So first time in 12 months, mum and dad had the kids, and we went away for a couple of nights. And then we were coming back to meet mum and dad at the beach at Surfers Paradise, and we were about due to go home the next day, and we were just having a nice family day at the beach, and John was in the water with Josh on his shoulders, and then someone yelled out, "Hey, is he okay? He's floating," and he died. He was dead. It was
what did they give you any did you have a heart attack or something, or what?
Well, it wasn't a heart attack, it was probably an arrhythmia. And the kids are under cardiology care because it could be a genetic thing, although nothing has been found. So this whole story around, there was water in his lungs, so the autopsy report actually says he drowned, but he didn't drown because he was in water up to his neck, and he was right at there was a pontoon thing, and he had Josh on his shoulders, and he was going out to stand up on the pontoon, and he couldn't have drowned. If he was in trouble, he would have grabbed onto that. Anyway, his heart, something happened with his heart. So that was fairly monumental.
Absolutely, yeah.
The last thing you expect to happen. He was healthy. He wasn't a smoker. Oh, he was a smoker, but he wasn't unhealthy at all. He was a good swimmer. It was like, what? But as I said to you, Steve, that the circumstances surrounding that were just incredible, and I have a strong faith in God from a young age. But as you go through life, these sort of things happen, and for me, I've seen God at work time and time and time again, and in that particular situation, I just have to share some of the amazing things. We're actually at the beach with my parents. It could have happened somewhere else. We were on holiday, we lived in Tasmania. My parents lived in Brisbane. It could have happened here. I would have been without family. It could have happened anywhere. It happened just as we were meeting my parents. It happened. We're actually supposed to be meeting our best friends from Tasmania, who happened to be in Queensland at the time. Now, our best friend, he's a emergency nurse, so they actually had pulled out and said, we won't meet you because we are too tired. And so they weren't there on the day. And if they had been, he would have, the ER nurse guy would have been working on his best friend. Instead, they were able to extend their stay and support me and hang around in Brisbane that week. Not only that, my pastor and very good friend Peter, who I've been talking about, was 5 minutes away. They live in the Gold Coast, but they were 5 minutes away on a conference. So everyone was around me within minutes, of this happening. On top of that, John's family was quite estranged, and they struggled with it in all their relationships and rarely saw each other. Yet, in the previous 2 weeks, every single person in his family, John had a special time with his sister, his mother, his father. They'd all had really special one-on-one times, which was so rare. It's like, if you had to orchestrate such a thing as this guy's death, it's like it couldn't have been planned better.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I just I'm very confident that God's got me, and John and the kids, and so much around that is beautiful,
right? And that's a big testimony, or a big testament to your your heart, and how you're able to be positive through something so traumatic and something so devastating. And it's like how did you kind of how did you kind of get to a place where you weren't angry, and a place that you can see the positive or something?
Yeah, I know. I can honestly say that I still haven't probably shake my fist at God and say, why me? And I haven't done that partly because, well, why not? It could be anyone. These things happen to people all the time, and who am I to demand that my husband not be taken from me or whatever? It's not my place. And I over my years, I've said, that's obviously, we've had other dramas and other issues in life, and you look back and I can always see, so maybe that didn't happen, even though I wanted it to happen. It didn't happen until, okay, so there's some more wisdom that I don't have in my head, but I trust that God has it, that wisdom. And so even John's death, I mean, again, he got to a place. He had struggled all his life with his career, and he got to a place where he was a teacher. Actually, he was teaching his trade at TAFE and absolutely loving it, and absolutely being just who he was meant to be. It was clear as day to me. That was who he was meant to be, and he was just in his element, really helping people. And it's like he got there. I don't know why now's the time to take him, but he got there. He really, his life sort of came to a really nice conclusion, if you like. So who am I to say why? Sure, it's hard. It was horrible. It was awful. It was hard and challenging, and so it was devastating. But I guess that's that answers the question. Yeah, that's how I sort of got there.
Wasn't that absolutely amazing? Fiona is awesome. What an amazing story. Please, if this has helped at all, please go over to my Patreon account. patreon.com/Steve Collum. And consider becoming a partner so we can do more of these interviews, so we can interview more amazing people and hear their stories, and hopefully that you will be inspired through this to reach your dreams. So hopefully you got a lot out of it, and I will see you in the next one.
Whoa, we're gonna rise up. Whoa, not gonna give